The breakfast edition of City Business News is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. We are both properties, quality housing for all, as well as Zenith Bank in your best interest, and powered by the City Business News team. To our very first story, and government has commenced moves to raise 300 million cedis from some domestic banks in the country to restructure the Volta River Authority's debt. A statement from the Ministry of Finance copied to City Business News explained that government, acting through the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Power, is to soon conclude the restructuring of a substantial portion of the debts owed by the VRA. The agreement, when concluded, is expected to comprehensively restructure VRA's balance sheet. According to the statement, the lenders were led by representatives of the Ghana Association of Bankers and the chief executives of the lending banks in the negotiations with the Finance Ministry. Now, as part of the final restructuring package, the VRA will undertake a rebate of 3.5% of the gross indebtedness of the company to lending banks as of May 31st, 2016. In addition, there is an extension of the maturity of the Citi and the US dollar denominated components of the debt to a maximum of 5 years with an option to accelerate repayment within 3 years. By this, the restructuring will allow government to achieve a maturity transformation, that's the repayment period, from overdue status to up to 5 years. Also, government has secured a reduction in the interest rate for the Citi component to 22% per annum from an existing average of 32% per annum, to be reviewed after 6 months. On the US dollar component of the debt, government says it has secured a reduction in the interest rate to 8.5% per annum from an existing average of 11% per annum. We'll bring you more on that developing story, but let's still stay with the power industry because the Ghana National Gas Company has told City Business News of an increased supply of gas from the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah following the resumption of operations on the floating vessel yesterday. Tallow on Tuesday shut down the FPSO due to faults on all fire and gas systems as well as VFD monitors on the facility. Operators subsequently indicated of resumption in the flow of gas at an initial 50 million standard cubic feet. Ghana Gas early this week also feared the intermittent power outages could get worse following a shortfall in gas supply from the FPSO. But the corporate affairs manager of Ghana Gas, Alfred Ogbami, tells City Business News supplies from the FPSO have increased to about 57 million standard cubic feet, which has culminated in an increase in gas supply to the Abuasi thermal plants from 46 to about 55 million standard cubic feet.
As of this morning, they were giving us 43.6, and we're giving VRA 42.8. As I speak to you, they're giving us 67.1 million standard cubic feet of gas, and we are giving VRA 55.5 million scarf. So there's an improvement. Indeed, even as of today, they confirmed they may not be able to go beyond the 50 million scarf, but an hour later they were doing 57.1 million scarf. I do not anticipate that they will be able to go above that, but I think also that it depends on the number of factors. If the situation allows, I'm sure they would increase the volumes coming to us.
That was the corporate affairs manager of Ghana Gas, Alfred Ogbami. Let's move away from that to some other stories. And the Third World Network wants government to follow in the footsteps of some East African countries which have pulled out of the Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union. Tanzanian authorities have said they were pulling out of the economic partnership agreements with the European Union. The announcement made the East African nation the second largest economy in the region, the first to pull out of the APA from the East African Community member countries. Speaking recently at the citybusinessnews.com breakfast encounters, the executive director of the European Business Organization here in Ghana warned that Ghana could attract high tariffs on export of some items to the EU if Parliament fails to conclude the ratification of the agreement between government and the EU by October this year. But speaking to Citi Business News, the program officer of the Third World Network Africa, Sylvester Bagoro, maintained that with the commencement of the Common External Tariff, ratifying the pact will distort the move for regional integration and trade harmonization in the sub-region since Nigeria has refused to sign the EPA.
East African community, they were supposed to sign the pact this month, on the 18th of July. But then Tanzania, which is the second biggest economy in East Africa after Kenya, fall out in that whole agreement, saying that Uganda, which is a part of that same bloc, is considering pulling out. In the sense that now we're in the customs union, that's the common external tariff. All of us are in the common external tariff. And so each part of the countries are not signing, and we go ahead to sign the agreement, ratify the agreement, and implement it. We're going to distort the regional integration agenda within the sub-region. So we should take lessons from what is happening in the East African region.
That was the program officer of the Third World Network Africa, Sylvester Bagoro. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of Advanced Ghana Savings and Loans Limited, Berwick Cardon, has taken a swipe at the Lands Commission over the delays in issuing proper documentation of land titles and registration. According to him, the issue has resulted in many financial institutions not willing to finance projects. He argues that issues related to land ownership are very complicated in Ghana and if not addressed critically would continue to result in dwindling investments from the financial sector. Speaking to Citi Business News at the sidelines of the launch of a new product, School Development Loan, the Chief Executive Officer called on the Lands Commission to speed up the process of issuing land titles.
For the business we are doing, as I mentioned earlier to you, the improvement of anything concerning land registration and mortgage. I strongly believe that it's a big challenge for Ghana, and I strongly believe that it would really support financial institutions to do what they have to do, financing the businesses. Today, in reality, in practice, with the lack of organization and difficulty to register properly land, the client, they have, even if they have assets or if they have building, they cannot use it to cover a loan and to get access to financing. Because, I mean, you know how it is with the land commission, and it's very difficult. The process is so long, so tedious for the client to register their building. So for us, financial institution is very difficult to finance them if they need a loan of a certain amount. All financial institutions in this country are facing the same challenge. So it should be more easy to register your land.
That was the Chief Executive Officer of Advanced Ghana Savings and Loans Limited, Berwick Cardon. Now, the Advanced Ghana School Development Loan is for private basic and high schools who wish to expand infrastructure or acquire buses which will aid the school's development. Now, the Ghana Consulting Engineers Association, GCEA, has expressed its displeasure at the increasing rate of sole sourcing, appealing to government to make procurement processes competitive and fair. According to the association, the practice of sole sourcing has reduced competition among local consultants, while it denies local companies the opportunity to secure projects which could be executed by local firms. Speaking to Citi Business News after the association's inauguration, the president of the Ghana Consulting Engineers Association, Engineer Albert Ojiri, maintained that sole sourcing does not only inhibit competition but also denies local companies the ability to expand their operations.
By default, that is the normal case, is that you should have competitive bidding. So when we do sole sourcing, it is only to be done as an exception, depending on the circumstances, and the circumstances must justify the need for sole sourcing. Maybe there is an issue that was cropped up due to a national disaster or something. We need somebody to do something very fast, or it is a very specialist area. You know, even if you open it to the whole world, you get just a few consultants, or if it's contractors. The procurement of consulting engineering services should be done in a competitive manner, ensuring fairness and honesty in the procurement.
That was the president of the Ghana Consulting Engineers Association, Engineer Albert Ojeri. Now, the regional manager for the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, RICS, Benjamin Menu, is urging businesses to invest in internationally accepted property management practices. According to him, investing in international standards will make them competitive on the global market. The Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors explores the implications of key drivers for change from mass urbanization and the emergence of real estate as an investment class to the rise of the worldwide middle class, focusing on the economic and business environment of a country. Benjamin Menu also tells Citi Business News investors get to benefit immensely from this practice. He was speaking at a workshop organized by the RICS, which centered on guidelines companies can adopt to meet international standards in the building industry.
It's a clear commitment to you as an entity or as a user that, one, you are de-risking your investment process. Two, you're providing transparency in the process in which you invest, and for your stakeholders and clients as well. And you are also contributing in corporate effort in having proper commercial records and asset records for your entity as well as an organization. So the benefits are huge for anybody who's interested as a developer, as an investor, as a bank, as an international, as a government agency in using this. You spend less money.
That was the regional manager for the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, West Africa, Benjamin Menu. Now, before I go, let's find out how the Citi is performing on the interbank foreign exchange market. The dollar is still selling at 3 cedis 94 pesos. The British pound lost 2 pesos, selling at 5 cedis 20 pesos. The euro gained 2 pesos, selling at 4 cedis 38 pesos. The Chinese yuan is still at 59 pesos, and the South African rand is also still at 27 pesos. Now, if you go to a forex bureau across the country, the dollar could be sold to you at 3 cedis 98 pesos after recording no price change. The pound, however, gained 7 pesos, could be sold to you at 5 cedis 22 pesos. The euro also gained 2 pesos, could be sold to you at 4 cedis 41 pesos. And the South African rand gained 1 peso, and it could be sold to you at 28 pesos. That's it for the breakfast edition of Citi Business News. Some of the stories we brought you: government commences moves to raise 300 million cedis from some domestic banks in the country to restructure the Volta River Authority's debt. Also, Ghana National Gas Company announces of an increase in